Hello and welcome to another stream where I'm going to be doing some MAME games, or games in MAME rather, because they're not really MAME games, they're arcades, they're computer games, they're console games, they're all sorts of games, but they'll be running in MAME. With it being March, I've decided I'm going to look at some things that are associated with the letter M. I mean, basically games that begin with the letter M, and yeah, I'll probably be going off on a few tangents too, because that's what happens. But yeah, this one is Marchen Maze, which has March in the title. So, you know, why not start with Marchen Maze? I'm going to coin this one up now, and let's have a look at it. This is a Namco game from '88. Apparently, it was known outside of Japan as Alice in Wonderland, but we've never actually seen a board of Alice in Wonderland called, you know, with the game being Alice in Wonderland. There's been the odd board where it's been marked as Alice in Wonderland, but it's not been Alice in Wonderland, and I guess that's because the themes are very much the same as Alice in Wonderland, same characters, you know, there you go, through the looking glass and all that. So if there is an Alice in Wonderland version out there, we have never actually seen evidence of it. But it's an isometric little shooter, platformy type thing. Tends to be quite overlooked. You know, it's not one of those, oh yeah, Namco did that, we all remember Namco doing that games, but it's a solid little game. Like most of the Namco games of the era, really. And it's on System 1 hardware, and given the choice between playing this and, say, Pac-Mania, I'd rather play this one. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Pac-Mania, I just think it's quite one of the pointless Pac-Man games. It's too slow-paced. There are many better games on Namco System 1. There we go, the charge shot. Very cutesy. I guess you could call this a cute 'em up. I don't know why we've got smoking mushrooms, but we have smoking mushrooms. And it's a tricky game. There's a lot going on. I mean, I'm dying early on. You're shooting things and they're exploding to what would usually be known as suicide bullets on sort of later cave shooters. You shoot something that aims bullets at you. Not maybe you aim, but they still come at you quite quickly, and they're a bit of a problem. But yeah, this is a good-looking game, full of sweets and dreamy ideas, and you know, it fits the whole Alice in Wonderland theme rather well. It's not the only game like this, and I'll probably be looking at another game after this. I've turned on the new CRT Geom Deluxe filter that had a few updates in the latest MAME version. I don't know how it comes across on stream. You say it looks good, which is, you know, that I'm happy it looks good, because sometimes when you scale these things, they look kind of awful. So, you know, in my preview window, it doesn't look good. But if it looks good for everybody else at, you know, full resolution, that is good news. But yeah, there are a few updates to the shader in the latest MAME version that makes them a little bit brighter. Because before, a lot of people said they were too dark. I think they're enabled by default to make it brighter. It's trickier than it looks, this. Like most... I mean, isometric games have a habit of being difficult. If you think of things like Viewpoint, that's notoriously difficult. Sega's Congo Bongo is another one, the isometric Donkey Kong game. Zaxxon, and they're all very tricky games. In fact, pretty much the only easy isometric game I can think of offhand is the Mega Drive Sonic 3D Blast. I don't know, there are probably others. I mean, let me think. Ant Attack on the Spectrum. It's easy enough at first, but it gets quite difficult. Oh, fell off. Right, game over. Yes, I will continue this time. I mean, I'm not being defeated that early on in the game. I'm right back at the start, aren't I? Oh dear. So, does anybody have any favourite M games? I'm guessing the Metal Slugs are going to be up there for most people. I mean, you can't deny Metal Slug as a classic arcade game series. And I say classic these days because, you know, it is of that age now where you can really call games from that period classic. Even early 2000s is, you know, almost 20 years ago. That's the thing with this. You know, you can take a lot of damage, but fall off once, and that's a life. So maybe it's just the best. I'm doing worse this time than the first time. I was compiling a list of games beginning with M before I started the stream, just to get an idea of what I could cover. And there were a lot of them. I mean, obviously you've got all your Mahjong games, and I can't play those, and most of them aren't really suitable for streaming anyway. They've got a fair bit of adult content, and yeah. So no Mahjong games tonight, which maybe is good news. I don't know. I mean, you know, it's an interesting genre that I'd like to actually know how to play, but I don't think it's anything people want to see streamed. And I can't really stream anyway. I might be able to stream them on Twitch, but I think even Twitch are a bit sensitive about that type of thing. There we go. Actually beat the boss this time. Didn't seem to take as many hits either. Or it just ranked the game down because I failed the first time. I don't know. Here we go. Walk along to the second level. And then you've got these swirly, surreal clocks. Ah, yes. Moonwalker. That one is. That one's on my playlist actually. I do want to be playing some Moonwalker today because, according to Vass, it's one that's actually benefited from the recent sound improvements that just went in. Apparently there are some what he refers to as acid jazz parts of the soundtrack, and they are improved since Aaron's YM rewrite. So, I mean, I don't know exactly which part of the game he's referring to with that, but you know, that is something I'm going to have a little spin up and have a little look at. Yeah, Midnight Resistance, you really need the spinner, don't you? I mean, you can play it on keyboard, and the home ports are really well known. They didn't have a spinner at all. In fact, I think the home ports of that are better known and well remembered than the arcade. Yeah, Metro Cross, that's another good one. And yes, Mustache Boy. Yeah, I quite like Mustache Boy. It's sort of the closest the arcade's ever got to having a squeak. And I think the Mustache Boy was mainly popular in Italy, wasn't it? It's one of those games that, you know, people knew it in Japan, people knew it in Italy. But outside of Italy and Japan, it seems quite uncommon. In fact, there's a second game I could be playing tonight related to Mustache Boy, if you played it. That's Metal Freezer. I mean, Metal Freezer seems to have been a planned sequel to Mustache Boy that didn't actually get past the location test stage, but the gameplay is very similar. And the hardware is quite similar too. Not identical, but close enough. But yeah, I mean, I think you'll find plenty of people that do know Mustache Boy. You might find less people that know Metal Freezer. I'll probably have a little look at them both actually. See, this is why I say platforming. You're trying to jump on moving platforms, which shouldn't be this tricky. But isometric jumps. Come on, I want to get somewhere on this level. Yeah, I mean, I kind of still hope that another version of this with Alice in Wonderland title does show up one day, but I just don't think it really existed under that title. I think it's wishful thinking. But, you know, I've been surprised before. I was surprised with that Miss Pac-Man twin that actually turned up, you know, the other week. Which game controls this game? This game's just joystick. Okay, so oh no, I'm changing the view. Again, it's gone back to focusing on that. We are streaming now. Right, so yeah, since Mustache Boy was mentioned, I will actually put on Metal Freezer first. Because to me, this is, yeah, let's do that one. This is as close as you're going to get to there being a sequel. So you've got a little track mode here. Yeah, isometric jumping is always quite tricky. I'm not the best at it. I had to practice on that game. But here, you see, much like Mustache Boy, you've got to change the colours of the tiles. But this time it's sort of space themed and everything else. Do I want to see the tutorial? I think, yeah. So this is widely considered to be a prototype. People think this one wasn't released. But, it's just showing you exactly how the mechanics work, how you can jump over everything. Yeah. So here we go. So yeah, it's a very similar concept to Mustache Boy. You've got to change the colour of all the tiles on the stage, but now you've got a weapon like that you can fire, and it just seems to be trying to take the idea to another level. So, I don't know. I mean, is it better? Is it worse? It's difficult to say. It does evolve. I think it's got more gameplay mechanics than Mustache Boy, but it's not got that cute balloons everywhere look to it. You're not jumping up and popping balloons, and I think that's kind of what makes Mustache Boy fun. This has sort of got that Pengo feel to it when you're pushing blocks and crushing enemies. So I suppose, yeah, you could say it's a cross between Pengo and Mustache Boy. Again, Japanese obsession with gambling games and mechanics comes into play there on the bonus round. So yeah, I mean, this was a more recent addition to MAME a few years ago, so a lot of people may not have seen it. It didn't really get talked about all that much when it was added. I don't know why not. I mean, usually when a prototype gets added, there's a lot of people going, "Oh, new prototype that I've not seen before, not played before." But this kind of got added to almost nobody talking about it at all. It's not a bad game. Maybe it's just a bit underwhelming. I mean, this was what, 89. Capcom had got CPS out. It's not a game people grew up with. But yeah, if you like this type of thing, it's a nice little game to be playing, I'd say. I'm surprised Squeak itself didn't get an arcade version, actually. I think it would have been perfect. At least it didn't make me do the third one when it knew I couldn't get anything. I always try and call this one Metal Saver though, but Metal Saver is a different game. Metal Saver is the SemiCom game. Can't even remember what I'm doing on this level. How do I get on that? You don't do that either. How have I forgotten how to play this game? There we go, you use that boost pad, that's it, press the button. So I'll give this another credit. There we go. Screen shaking effect here. It's quite tricky if you're trying to rush it. That's one of the things. It's one of those games you can't rush. If you try and rush it, you will just fail. Oh, magnet enemy. And here we go, get to the exit, that's it. And you know, same again, change the squares. But, you go through the tunnels to get your power-ups like that. And they have tried to cram more ideas in, I think I already mentioned that. But maybe too many little ideas that they don't fully explain, even though they've got that long tutorial at the start. And the thing with tutorials like that is people are just going to skip over them, rather than taking every mechanic they're trying to explain. There we go. I was thinking of maybe doing some more updates to the layout for the stream and doing a monitor type overlay and putting the game screen behind it so it doesn't have the big black borders. I don't know if I'll do that in the future, but anyway, this was Metal Freezer. So yeah, we've got your track. We've got a nice long high score name there too. Yeah, Seibu, the makers of Raiden, who also did Mustache Boy, although most people know Mustache Boy as a game by March because the most common version that you see is the one that was licensed to March. I'll quickly put Mustache Boy on. But yeah, Mustache Boy. Well, thank you again, main fan. M is for money. M is for money. M can be for money. There were a few money games in the list. I mean, I really appreciate the donation, so thank you for that. What money games do I have? I had Money Puzzle Exchange. That was one that I might look at later. So M can be for money. Thank you, much appreciated. I mean, you really don't have to. You made a big donation the other week on the Valentine's stream, but I always appreciate it. I've been buying up a few plug and plays at the moment, so it'll go towards that, I think. Sean's been dumping some too. I mean, you saw the Dora Globe and the Dora TV phone, and one of the ones we picked up last time was that Dora TV phone. No money games requested by you. Now, I mean, if there are any M games you want me to play, I'll have a look at them. As long as they're stream friendly. I'm not going to put any adult ones on, or at least I'm going to try not to put any adult ones on. I've gone through them this time. Yeah, the sound improvements are something I'm going to talk about a bit more shortly. But yeah, Aaron did rewrite the YM cores, which are now under a BSD license, which means they can be used in commercial products on consoles. And only attribution is needed, accreditation. So, say that, it comes from MAME, who the authors were, and then it can be used. There's no other requirement of the license to be opening up the source on anything. So, it makes it far easier for them, because if you're developing on a console, you can't just open source your game, because there's all sorts of proprietary libraries and things, and it just doesn't work. So yeah, I'm hoping that it means we'll see more main code used in commercial products, properly licensed ones. Because if you look at the Capcom release, this one on the Switch, they'd use some of the main code for things like Q-Sound, but then they couldn't use the YM cores from MAME because they were GPL licensed, so that ended up shipping with really bad sound on a lot of the games. But now, there is a suitable core, which if they wanted to go back and update their product to use, they could. And that's kind of what we want to see. But yeah, it's not only a rewrite though in terms of improved license. It's yeah, I'm playing with the current top of tree with the updates, and yeah, there are still some of Jarrett's cores in there, but I think Aaron does want to replace those two at some point. But you know, a lot of the main ones have been reworked now, so that's all good. And what was this one using? This one's using the OPM core. But, yeah, you see this. I think this is a better game than Metal Freezer anyway. That's probably why Metal Freezer probably didn't get released. But they're very similar in concept, change all the tile colours. So they're, well, I'd say Metal Freezer is basically a sequel to this, even though it changed the theme around quite a lot. But yes, I am playing with the latest, which is why I can do this. This is Micro Machines 96 for the Mega Drive. And the Mega Drive is quite quiet, sorry. So I'm going to turn up slightly. Okay. Yeah, the Mega Drive volumes are mixed very low because if you add the 32X and stuff, it's adding all sorts of extra sound chips, and the way MAME mixing works is you have to accommodate all the different chips, so it has to be mixed low just in case anybody wants to add the extras. So I don't know if you can hear this. I hope you can hear this. I did turn it up a bit. But, now, if I press space, it makes the horn sound. Older MAME versions with the previous FM cores were completely lacking that sound. So I know if you've used Mega Drive emulators, that's not a big deal. They've got it right for a long time. But it's something that was wrong in MAME, and that sound was completely missing. And I'm just glad to see it's there. Plus, you know, this is quite a fun little game. I'm not going to win the race now, am I? But again, this is one of those. Why weren't there any of these Micro Machine games in the arcades? I think they would have been perfect, especially if you did a link-up cab version. You know, you could add your standard race mode as well as the keep-on-screen race modes. Would have been perfect. You know, fun little tracks, fast action. You could have even done it on Mega Drive type hardware, I'm sure. I mean, it runs fine. There's nothing that says this isn't an arcade game in terms of quality. I saw there's a new dump of a prototype version of Micro Machines Military on the Mega Drive showed up recently. It was shared on Twitter. Somebody put the link up. I've not tried it. Don't know how different it is to the final. Also, this is hard enough to be an arcade game. I'm terrible at it. You can just try and stay on the tracks and you just skid off all the time. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to use any of the main code, do make sure to check the licenses first, because there are still some GPL bits, as pointed out, but they are being replaced over time, and one of the major hurdles to that has now been replaced with BSD license code. So, oops, I forgot I'd been lapped. That was a bit of a disaster, wasn't it? I like the general look at this. I mean, you've got your cassette tape there as well. It puts you right back in, you know, in the 90s. And you know, CDs were a bit expensive, and you still had your cassette tapes. And, yeah. Good game season. This is when I you know, these are the 16-bit games Codemasters did that I just really like. I don't think 16-bit Dizzy was ever quite Dizzy, but 16-bit Micro Machines was you know, a good fun game. This is Micro Machines 96, which I think is actually my favourite of them. I don't know why. Also supports 4 players if you've got the 4-player. Well, you don't need the multi-tap, because the extra players plug straight into the cartridge on this one, don't they? Which always struck me as a bit risky, because you're going to be wobbling the cartridge if you pull the wires, but I still managed to finish last. You know, we could just go with I'm really bad at racing games and not play Micro Machines anymore, because that was just to demonstrate the sound improvement. Although, if we're on that theme of Micro Machines, we could go with this one on the PlayStation. Now, this one I think was, at least without the first part of the title, in Europe. In America it's fox.kids.com. Hey Augusto, how you doing? Have you been checking out looking at the MAME sound improvements too, that will be in the next release, or are you waiting for the next release? Oh, thank you, Ryan. I don't know how much 2000 Swedish is it Corona works out as, but thank you. You know, everything is appreciated. Right, so this is Micro Maniacs for the PlayStation, which is obviously pretty much. Thank you. You know, I'll put it towards some sort of plug and play or something like that. I've got Rockman to put a few bids on. One's for me. 200. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, this is one I had on the PlayStation back in the day. But clearly it's a spin-off of Micro Machines, really, I would say. I'm not going to play too much PlayStation, but I just thought, well, you know, I was looking at Micro Machines. This one just came to mind from, you know, having a PlayStation back in the day. I was never actually very good at this either, but, you know. Again, one that I think could have worked as an arcade game. I mean, RC2Go got a release on GNet. And I think this is a better game than that. It's just one of those series that somehow never really made it to the arcades. Yeah, 2000 would be quite a lot. I do get my numbers mixed up from time to time. So 2000 would be more than the very generous donation MAME fan made the other week. So, you know, it'd be a bit too much, I'd say. I've mainly got the thing open for smaller donations if people say, you know, want to say, oh, get yourself a drink, something like that. I'm on the monster tonight because I was falling asleep before this. This is running around the edge of a bathtub, so again, it's very similar themes to Micro Machines, because that's got races in bathtubs. This is running around the edge. Got to riskily run along the edge to click up the collectibles there. Charge up, boost, don't run into things. The PS1 driver, it works for some things, it doesn't work for other things. I mean, I did want to do a stream where I look at the Nichibutsu one that's got the Crazy Climber update on. That was probably a cancelled arcade game, I feel. I think it's like Crazy Climber 84 or something. But that just gets stuck on the screen. There's still some memory card issues. I know when I load memory card in this, it seems to detect like 4 data slots rather than 1. But yeah, there's a lot of games that you can just play. I've put this on an Xbox One pad. It's nice and easy to now. It's one of those where it sort of either works or it doesn't. I think it's a bit better than the Saturn one, and the performance tends to be a lot better than the Saturn. There aren't any games that I'm aware of that run badly, if they run. playing another game. I was playing Roll Cage earlier too. Not on stream, but just in my own time, because that was a favourite little racing game too. Because the alternative I was contemplating for the stream was racing games. But I think I'll do a dedicated racing game stream another time. Ooh, and I should watch where I'm going. Turbo boost. Yeah, I mean, MAME's not a terrible option for PlayStation, even though the driver's mod is not working. I think if the sound issues in Metal Gear were fixed, and maybe some of the memory card issues were fixed, it would be a good candidate to actually just promote it, because most things that people are going to want to run do run. It seems to have better compatibility than some of the other drivers I've tried that are not just not as working. So MAME is a little inconsistent at other times. I hope that counts, because I just cut a corner there. You could probably say the same about some of the drivers I've done, but I tend to be a little, prefer to err on the side of caution. That's why things like Sega CD aren't working, because some of the FMV games are a bit of a mess. And then the scaling's wrong in some others. It did count. Yeah, it's Micro Maniacs, so yeah, it's Micro Machines without wheels where you're just running around. I mean, I'll quit now, because I don't want to spend too long on any game. I don't think I've got a memory card in, so escape. Ooh. Yeah, it's by Codemasters, so it's probably the same developers, Micro Machine at Codemasters, I would imagine. Right. Okay. Speaking of, I mean, I was doing an isometric game earlier, but I did say I'd look at this one. This is Moonwalker, Sega's Moonwalker. Well, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, but it's Sega's Moonwalker. You know what I mean. And as I said, this is one where Vass says there were some improvements to the audio. I don't know if we'll hear them, because I don't know the exact stage he's talking about when he says there's improvements. But, he did mention there were improvements. I'm using the BGFX CRT GM Deluxe one, which apparently I think was the one that had some improvements in the latest release, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, there might be some claims on this. I might have to mute the audio later. We'll see. I mean, I've not usually got the case of blocking them. It's just a case of, revenue share and all that stuff. So, it's just the way YouTubers these days. Yeah, CGWG. I'm not great with names, but yeah, that sounds bad. I'm glad the shader does look alright on stream though, because I was a bit worried about the effect the scaling would have on it. Because obviously I'm running it on a monitor, it's been scaled down to another Windows size for the stream, and sometimes that's going to make a mess of scan lines and the like. But it sounds from the comments so far that it's coming out okay. So, yeah. So, yes, if this, I'm saying if this part of the stream is silent, that's why. But if I'm saying that, people aren't going to hear me say that. I know YouTube does have a just mute audio option, but that doesn't usually work. It just usually comes back and says couldn't do that. Yeah, they probably will have to share monetization on it. I mean, if share's fine, I don't mind putting share. It's just the ones like the Thomas plug and play of all things. It got absolutely blocked. It's like, this video is not available in half the world because there was a clip of the theme song that's not even the theme song I recognise on it. That's a silly plug and play. In fact, I've had more problems with the plug and plays than anything else in that sense. I think because so many of them just got stolen music, just sampled music from something else. So they're not even coming up as cover songs, they're just coming up as stolen music. Which is what they are, but you don't always know that until it gets flagged. The copyright claim, and well, the audio the audio claim thing, audio fingerprint, comes up on the ECALS stuff as well, and that's not even well emulated sound. That's just beeps and bops, but it still recognises the melody of the songs. A few times people have asked me what the songs are that are on the ECALS things, and I've just gone and looked at what YouTubers recognise the song as to get the original. The original artist, although it doesn't always. There's times people ask me what the original song was and it's not come up, but yeah, it's very good at picking up songs that even sound like the songs, even if they're not the songs. Same for those plug and play guitar ones. You know, as terrible as that version of Bon Jovi, You Give Love a Bad Name. Is that the one? I think that's the one, isn't it? That came up. Guns N' Roses they all came up. Basically every song on there was flagged, even though they're basically just MIDI recreations of them. So they said this is a cover song. Yeah, video uses the song melody. They are very good at detecting what the song is. So I am kind of expecting that on this one. For games with CD soundtracks, it's even more likely because the CD soundtracks are on record. But yeah, for things like this, Namco's bad too. Most Namco songs, even ones that aren't CD audio or sampled, will come up. Nebulous Ray, I think I had to silence in one of the other videos because it was being blocked. So they've got it. Yeah, I guess there's just a lot of industry pressure to try and get money from wherever they can. So, same with people doing cover songs. Now you can be playing a cover song on your guitar and it will pick it up. What are you doing? I just wanted the special effect, didn't I? So, I mean, unlike Marchen Maze, at least this one's not a platform. You're not having to make jumps all the time, which is where Marchen Maze got caught me out. It's a good sounding game, as you'd expect, and it is one of those that I say has apparently benefited from the new sound changes. That's a lot of data to back up. I'm probably due a backup myself at some point. Piles of drives and data and all sorts. This takes me back, not for listening to the song in its original form, but one of the Yamaha keyboard I had growing up had Beat It as one of the built-in tracks. I'm pretty sure that keyboard's not actually emulated either. So that's one I actually look forward to, if seeing emulated. Assuming it's not, but I've not seen anything about it being emulated. I think a lot of those keyboards have MCUs with internal ROMs, don't they? Or you've just got samples externally. At least the Casio ones, I don't know about Yamaha. Oh yeah. Proper wipe clean and hope the drive survives the wipe and, you know, the backup. Anyway, that was Moonwalker. I think drives these days are pretty good though. I just know back when there were Seagate 1 terabyte drives, some of them, if you ran them constantly for backing them up, they got so hot they died in the process. They were not good drives. The only time I bought so many drives that have died so quickly put me off Seagate for a long time, that did. Although I think the latest Seagate ones seem better again. Yeah, it's I think YouTube is not the best, and Twitch is going the same way, isn't it? Although Zypho still does his Marvel stream with Winner Picks the Song, playing songs off YouTube and everything else, so I don't know. I don't think they're quite as strict yet. Where shall I go next? Just looking down this list. Let's go Metal Black. Now this is a Taito shooter. I think yeah, every manufacturer can be bad. This is the sort of sequel to Taito's Gun Frontier. It's one of those shooters that's mainly known for its special effects, maybe over the gameplay. It's got some 3D stages. I'm just going to skip through, see if they're in the attract mode actually. So it's got the wavy backgrounds here, Taito going all out with their effects. I suppose this is, you know, similar to how with Konami you've got ZX, or how you pronounce it, where they went a bit over the top with the effects, and this is Taito doing the same on this hardware. Wavy effect there, let's see, 3D stage with wavy effects. It all looks very nice. I mean, it's definitely utilising the hardware well. But I'm not always the biggest fan of the game. I'm going to play it for a little bit anyway. It's one of those where, for lack of word, nothing seems to have any feeling of substance to it. Weight. Things just sort of disappear in a little puff quickly. No puff of smoke there and they're gone. There's no satisfying pickup noise. It feels... The visuals are excellent. Yeah, that was what I was demonstrating, the effect. The raster effect. I don't think it's actually a raster effect. I think it does have line scroll hardware. And yeah, that's the thing. Scenery kills you instantly, just like that. And you don't realise it's going to do it until it does, and then you get trapped in a corner because you're stupid like me, and you've lost 2 lives already. It's got a very Euro feel in that sense. Euro shooters love to do nasty tricks like that. You know, that sand won't kill you. You feel if they had blending hardware, they might have blended the sand to show you that that wasn't dangerous, but as impressive as the effects are, the hardware's actually not that great. It's not F3 with all the blending effects or anything else, so they've just had to make do with the row scroll and line scroll and line select. I'm just going to keep out the way of the frogs. Desert frog. Okay, it's got a nice little soundtrack going on. Very quiet. We do find that with quite a few Taito games. These soundtracks are great, but they're really quiet. Not in your face soundtracks. Concentrate. That's a little bit ugly. I just don't know what to think of this one. On one hand it impresses me, on the other hand there's just something about it I don't enjoy. I prefer Gun Frontier because it's more traditional vertical shooter. That's got some nice effects too on the waterfalls palette effects. I forgot I've got my blaster beam, haven't I? Oh dear. Again, that laser attack, I'm not sure really where you're meant to go to avoid it. This is taking more shots than I feel it should after already turning red. There we go, and then you've got the whole map type effect there. Bonus stage. Yeah. Now you see it's almost feeling Afterburner-like. So he's now playing nothing. Yes, it will do. I know why. Hold on. Hold on. I accidentally erased my configuration files for my stream setup. Shortly before I started streaming. Which was a bit silly of me, really. Okay, that was a quick end to Metal. Thank you for that. That was yeah. I was originally going to be streaming it an hour earlier, and then I copied over the new main folder from just compiling it, and accidentally copied all the config files as well, which took out the config file I had got set up for streaming. As happens sometimes. You know, just a moment of not thinking about things. Let's put on another shooter, a vertical shooter this time. This is one that I worked on the emulation of a long time ago. I'm still not entirely sure that every effect is emulated. It's also one where I'm emulating a transparency effect that might actually be a flicker effect on the PCB. It's also one where the volume's very quiet, so let's bump that up a little bit. Macross Plus. Yeah, now it shows. Yeah, the now playing works again now. Pardon. What had happened is I turn. Well, it's a Lua plugin, and the plugin.ini had been erased, so it wasn't enabled. So I'll try not to make that mistake in the future. But thank you for pointing it out. This has got zooming backgrounds. So there we go. We're zooming down to the road level. It's got a sort of target lock thing like Taito's gun lock. And obviously it's a Macross themed game. Licensed games aren't always the best. I think this one seems solid. Maybe I prefer the other Macross games, the NMK developed one, and well, I think they're both NMK. But Macross 2 is sort of a timed attack mode thing, so you've got to clear the stage within the time, and that's a more interesting mechanic than playing shooter, although it also makes it incredibly difficult. You have to be good, you have to know where to target, and you have to get rid of everything. Yeah, the little explosions on this are currently handled with a transparency effect. And as we found out with Dragon Gun recently, sometimes what we thought were transparency effects are actually just on-off sprite flickers. And when the only resources we had available were the 60 or 30 frames a second old YouTube videos recorded with the camera pointing at TV, it wasn't always obvious, because a flickery effect in that situation can just appear as a transparency, which is how a lot of transparencies were pulled off. Things like the Neo Geo, the transparencies in that are flicker effects, but we knew that, it was better documented. With some of these, the resources weren't there at the time when I was emulating it, and clearly to be transparent in some way, so it's implemented as a transparency effect, but having seen and emulated more systems since, my gut feeling is that might actually be wrong. And so I should probably seek out more resources and see. It's a nice little zoom effect there where the ship takes off. Video decoder, Dragon Gun. It's the one with the Intel DVI thing. Phil found another board that uses it, but there was at least one ROM on that board bad, and it's probably some sort of redemption game that just happens to use it. But he does have a Dragon Gun as well. But yeah, a Dragon Gun with full backgrounds would be really good to see. It might just be something like a JPEG decode type thing it's doing. Setting some pointers up. Yeah, this is clearly influenced by things like Rayforce. I mean, what year was this? 96, so around that time. And you've got that 3D effect there on the pillars is very Thunderblade too, I feel. Thunderblade did a lot of that stacking up 2D sprites to give the illusion of height. So there's an effect I would associate with that game. Yeah, it was Dragon Gun where Cam found out from better quality videos that the blending effect was actually a flicker effect. And Dragon Gun where the videos need emulating. Dragon Gun is also a very good game. I'd rather cover that when the videos are fully emulated. I think there's some private ebooks too. At least Lock and Loaded, which runs on the same platform, is a bit of a mess. And Lock and Loaded should be an easy one in theory to get working. I think Kale hooked up the gun into it, but sometimes it now crashes the game when you fire the gun. And that without correct priorities is a bit silly because you can see all the enemies before they pop up. And also you need to know how to get into the service mode to calibrate the guns, which is holding down some buttons on start or something. But I am surprised that's not been fixed yet. But I think MAME does still have a fair bit of low-hanging fruit in that sense. I'm sure that Touchscreen Mahjong game on the Cave SX3 hardware wouldn't be that difficult to get up and running. I think you need to emulate the serial controller on the SH3, but the touchscreen protocol was documented by the Daniel devs, Metallic and the like, so I reckon that one could be hooked up. And I've actually been looking over things like that, but not actually doing them, just making notes of them. But yeah, Macross Plus, definitely very Rayforce, but with a Macross theme. So if you like Macross and you like Rayforce, yeah, it's not bad. It's got this pre-rendered intro, which isn't the worst pre-rendered intro I've ever seen. Shall we go from one good licensed game to one not so good licensed game? I think that's what the Intel chip does. I think it's a dedicated decoder. Where are we going? That's not the one I want. No, that's what the settings. Okay. So this is Mobile Suit Gundam X Revue. I mean, the ARM does read some parameters from the video ROMs, because when the game used to hang at the end, the last boss, it's because it was reading some parameters for the video, and the video ROMs weren't mapped, and so it was trying to do something with invalid parameters and pull it from the game state. I think it reads the parameters and passes them onto another chip, and probably needs some interrupts hooked up so that works too, because at the moment it only does it once at the start of the video, and obviously it should be doing it throughout the video. But this game has a horrible frame rate, and I don't think that's an emulation problem. I think this game just has a horrible frame rate and horrible pre-rendered graphics. Oh, it's a loud one, is it? Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I forgot I turned it up for another game, didn't I? That is one of the things when you're doing MAME, you have to be mindful of the volumes, because some games are quiet and some games are loud, and I have to keep an eye on the little audio monitor there. But yeah, I was saying the on Dragon Gun, it did need the video ROMs mapping into ARM space, because the ARM reads parameters from them, which is why it used to crash on the final boss, because it was reading invalid parameters. But then it doesn't do much with them after that. It just seems to write some of them to another address, and then only does that once. So I think it needs interrupts. I don't know. Phil would be the best one to ask because he has the hardware. But I just remember getting nowhere with it. But in theory, it's probably something like JPEG images, because I think that's kind of what the DVI spec hints at. And the video ROMs do roughly follow the DVI file format, but it doesn't actually specify what the compression format is in them. The only other thing for that Intel chip I could find were like Windows 3.1 drivers for cards with it on and things like that, which weren't actually that useful. But yeah, this one was almost on my fighting game screen. I didn't get around to it. But it's a Gundam fighting game. It runs on the Seta 2 type hardware, so this is the same sort of hardware that things like Penguin Brothers were on. And Penguin Brothers is runs really well. This one, I really don't know what's going on. It feels like it's dropping frames, but when I've tried to find original hardware videos of this, it looked the same. So unless they weren't original hardware videos, I think this is just how this game is. So I didn't find that information on the chip at the time, but there might be new information available now that wasn't at the time, because it's probably about 15 years since I've looked at the thing. Victory. So, those boards just went to waste as well. I mentioned Lock and Loaded. A lot of Dragon Guns got converted to Lock and Loaded, and Lock and Loaded doesn't even use the video, so you've just got all that video hardware and those chips sitting on a really bad looking gun game, which I will never understand the logic behind. Dragon Gun, okay. Big expensive cabinet, maybe that was the problem, but we could have made better use of that hardware. Yeah, at least now there are plenty of videos of Dragon Gun online anyway. You can see what the videos are meant to look like, what they add to the boss fights. And I think a lot of people don't realise the backgrounds are missing on the boss fights. At least that's the impression I got from the times it's come up on stream before. People have then looked at the video and gone, oh yeah, that's what's missing. Because the black backgrounds on the bosses almost feel like intentional for dramatic effect. To focusing on the boss, but they're really not meant to be black backgrounds. I lost. I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on in the backgrounds of these. Also, my scrolling's off by 1 pixel, but that doesn't surprise me. I don't think there's enough going on, but a 16 MHz 68K based processor should feel this slow. Yes, you victory. I mean, that's one thing I don't really understand with a lot of these games. Surely there were enough references that you'd know you victory wasn't correct English. You know, you've only got to find another fighting game, and I don't think any of them go you victory. Well, this suddenly ramped up in difficulty. In-game, I quite like the in-game graphics. It's the attract mode and that looks terrible. But given the choice between playing this and, say, Capcom's Cyberbots, I'm going to go for Cyberbots. But Cyberbots does not begin with M, so I can't play Cyberbots today. I could, because I did say I might go off on tangents, but no, I'm not going to go off that tangent. I avoided one of the tangents that I was going to go off on. I was going to play DSTV Princess something isometric game after Marchen Maze. I forgot. So, you know, my bad memory has saved me from a tangent already. I quite like the audio on this too. It's satisfyingly crunchy and the music works for me. I just don't think it's an especially good game. Maybe it's just don't think it's an especially well programmed game. Yeah, the in-game art is good. It's the attract mode art that's really ugly. That is me lost. But yeah, the in-game art's fine. This art, that's horrible. It's all over the place, really. I don't know. It's a bit of a mess of a game, that one. But I guess you get that with a lot of the Gundam games, then, don't you? I don't know why. It's just one of those IPs where it's always hit and miss. Moto Frenzy. That's probably going to be a pain to control, isn't it? But I can have a look at it. Maybe. I mean, yeah, 94. It was quite early, actually, 94. I bet Moto Frenzy is going to be a pain to control. We'll see. Wheelie motor malfunction. That's a good start. Yeah, they're probably just some bad decision making. 3 coins for Moto Frenzy. Let's go to Norway. Now, personally, I don't think this is one of Atari's best efforts. But, does it work properly these days in MAME? I mean, I think it does. Is this the one Peter worked on the protection of? I think this is the one that Peter worked on the protection of, and he said it's just as jittery, just as hard to tell what's going on the real board. Yeah, it's the right driver for the Space Lord's copy protection. And I think it is the one I asked him about, because I fired it up and going, is this actually working? Is this how it's meant to be? But, you know, he did say the real board was really not pleasant to look at. Yeah, I think you need a wheel control on this. Trying to play this on keyboard is not good. It just feels like something's wrong to me. You know, it feels like there's hills missing on the track still. But there is a hill there, so they're not entirely missing. I really don't know. But it's, I mean, it's ugly. I think that you can't escape that with this one. It's from that Atari Pit Fighter Guardians of the Hood era where apparently they thought this was a good look to be going for. I didn't even see that rock. How did I avoid that rock? I'm missing something here, aren't I? Is this what Norway's really like? You just have polar bears walking across roads? Probably not. Oh well. No, I don't wish that into my name. Very 90s score continued countdown there. But yeah, I'm gonna have to see if I can find any original hardware footage of this one. Last time I looked for it, I couldn't find any, which is so often the problem. Oh dear. I've never been to Norway. I've not even been to that part of the world at all. But yeah, I guess. I think most Atari games with this logo on are actually really bad. I think that's a trend. That was a Moto Frenzy. It's probably very difficult to play on keyboard. Oh hey Orgite, how you doing? Shall we go with some Korean baseball? Let's go with some Korean baseball. MuHanSeungBu, or SemiCom baseball as it seems to be called by everybody who doesn't know it's called that. SemiCom did a lot of baseball games. I guess somebody at SemiCom liked baseball. I think there's Magic Ball Fighting, there's this one, there's a few others, but this one begins with Air Masters Magic Ball Fighting actually. But this one's more Korean, so you know, I thought I'd go with the more Korean one for a Korean baseball game. Right, and of course, being a Korean game, I will pick Korea. And these are portraits. I mean, what? Let's play in the snow. This is how most of the games of baseball I play go. Oh, I might get to first base. I think one of the problems with a lot of baseball games, especially arcade ones too, is they're really just quarter munchers. They're coin munchers. They want, even if you're doing well, they want you to put in another coin all the time. I played a fair bit of Baseball Stars 2 on the Neo Geo. I quite enjoyed that one. And Baseball Stars 2020, which apparently was not an accurate depiction of 2020. Yeah. Oh, no. I got... Did I get one? Yeah, I got one. That's not good. That's not good at all. Oh, hey Pedro. You have my blessing, along with all the other good people in the world. Good evening. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but good evening, sort of dinosaur-y crocodile picture person. I do not know the reason for any of the art design in this game, but I guess you do get that sort of silly effect on more than just this game when it comes to baseball. I think they're just trying to make the game more entertaining by adding extra features and animations. In terms of baseball, there was that recent IT prototype dumped as well and added. Ryan in the chat here helped add support for that and fixed up a load of graphic errors in the IT driver. Though that's a very tricky one to play because it's trackball based. So I did have a look into streaming that one at one point, but I couldn't find a control setup that I felt worked well enough to make it worth streaming. I think if you've not got a trackball, it's a bit of a tricky one. But, that's interesting because it was developed by Midway as well, using IT's hardware. Part Midway, part IT, I believe. If you go into the service modes, they look like sort of your Midway Mortal Kombat service modes. And sometimes sources can come in handy like that. I mean, I guess it's a feature none of the other IT games we're using, or are there some bug fixes in other ones that haven't been mentioned? It's just a case of different developer using hardware in a different way, as we see so often. I'm really not doing well. I'm losing 8-1 in this. I feel I'm missing something here. I mean, I did read the article that was posted about it, and I think they went to IT because IT were experts in using trackballs, and you know, IT obviously wanted to use the IT hardware. Although in the end, the game became a non-trackball game. It'd be quite nice if the non-trackball version showed up. See, if I count the score sheet in binary, I don't feel quite as bad about this score. Unfortunately, it's not binary, is it? And I lost 11-1. Well, this was a SemiCom Korean baseball game. And it's not terrible. I'm just terrible at it. Yeah, it's always good when something shows up that fixes up, you know, adds an unemulated feature to hardware, fixes something up or anything else. Yeah, Magical Drop. I was going to play the original Magical Drop. You mean Maniac Square? There's Maniacs SP, another game. Oh yeah, Maniac Square. Oh, Maniac Square, the prototype version. Yeah, that's what SP is. Very different to the final release. Yeah, the original Magical Drop's been working for a long time. It's one of the encrypted data ease games. And Magical Drop +1. It's just the English version. It was called Chain Reaction. But the Japanese version was Magical Drop. But yeah, it's one of the Data East 156 encrypted games. It's probably not a 28 MHz ARM, but I believe setting it low was causing crashes in the games. So, I don't know. It's been set to 28 for a long time. Probably the timings aren't the same as the base ARM or something. because they definitely don't run well at 7 at all. Yeah, this is the original Magic. Well, it's not the original Magical Drop. This is Magical Drop Plus, which is a minor update to the original, but it's just not the Neo Geo ones that maybe most people are familiar with. This is one of those games that got a fair bit of a fair number of ports too. There's a Neo Pocket version, and it's one that's been imitated on many of these plug-and-play consoles. It seems to have been a popular concept. It's like a simpler version of something like Money Puzzle Exchanger, where you don't have to know your coins and maths to be playing it. You just have to match the colours as quickly as you can, really, and look for chain opportunities. Not really chain opportunities, but you know, cases where you can pick something up quickly without moving too far. Manual chaining, let's say. You don't want to be wasting too much time rearranging things. You want to be trying to put things in a position where you can quickly make something of them. You can't pick up the symbols. What do I do? Oh, you can pick up the symbols one at a time, that's it. You can't pick up them with the other one. Yeah, that gets rid of it. I forget sometimes what the exact mechanics are on all these games. I do. Yeah, I mean, most people know this from the Neo Geo versions, which are some of the more popular puzzle games on the Neo Geo. But it was a fine concept even before it hit the Neo Geo. And this is just the endless mode, so it keeps going, getting more difficult until I can't play anymore. Can't remember if the original game's got the other modes. I think it does. It's been a long time since I actually played this one. This is not quite as fast as the Neo Geo sequels either. You've got a slight delay in the controls. You can't just quickly move between the rows, which means it doesn't feel quite as good to play. The concept was definitely refined for the later games. If you go from those immediately to this one, it feels very sticky. I didn't know there was a 5 on Steam, although, yeah, I mean, the Data East IP does seem to be getting used a lot lately, doesn't it? There's that Windjammers sequel, I believe, as well, which I've also not played, but maybe I should, because I did really like the original Windjammers. I'm not always big into sports games, but that's one that I just enjoyed. It's a sort of fantasy sport, really, isn't it? Crazy frisbee thing with a superpower. Oops. I can see the appeal of that, especially being multiplayer and online. Is it not very good? Who is your friend who is in dire need? Yeah, Windjammers is really good if you've not played it. I mean, it's a very simple, pure arcade concept, really. You can almost trace the roots back to things like Pong. One player on one side, another player on another side. and you've thrown a disc between them. I think it's one of those games that it's probably one of the better games on the Neo Geo, but everybody thinks of Neo Geo and just fighting games. But beyond the fighting games, it's got a really good library. Okay, well, I will take your word for this, and assume this is somebody who is in need of blessing, and I will give them my blessing. I'd say I don't know them, so I hope this is not some horrible trick, but if it is not, then for all my probably fake Jesus powers, I will bless your friend. So there we go. He needs to get his girlfriend in Portugal. Well, I guess COVID is a bit of a problem at the moment, isn't it, for that type of thing? But I'm sure when that is all over, I mean, I can't just make all that go away. I'm sure after that's all over, then, it'll be easier to sort things out. But most people's lives are on hold now, aren't they? I mean, you're not going to be getting somebody to come from Brazil over to Portugal or anything else as things stand. It's just not the global climate for doing that. I'm sure after that, once things are a bit more back to normal, it'd probably be a bit easier to make plans and move forward with such things. Right. Yeah, Mega Man was a suggestion too. Do I want Mega Man 2 though? Or do I want Mega Man 1? I'm tempted by Mega Man 1. Yeah, let's put Mega Man 1 on. I say Mega Man 1 because it's one of the ones with a Hawaiian core. Because this was also released on CPS2 with Q sound. But I figure I'll play this version. Because this looks like it's a bit quiet. One of the things that have been talked about with the the FM core updates is the Capcom Switch Pack, where a lot of the CPS games had really bad sound. So giving the CPS games a bit of a workout, the pre-Q sound ones make sense. I mean, I'm not very good at this, like most of these games, but yeah, Mega Man as a pure boss fight game, which this is actually, I think it's a really good concept. You fight your bosses, you get the weapons from the bosses, and then you can use the weapons. Not Mega Man 2 on the NES. You know, the MSI plug and play. I did try playing that one a bit, and I tried playing the plug and play after watching somebody else play the plug and play. I thought, that doesn't look too difficult, does it? And then I died a lot. Yeah, this sounds good to me. I'm not hearing any horrible sounds anywhere. That MSI Mega Man 2 plug and play is a mess, though. And they've only had to update the game to run on the VT type hardware, not enhance it. But they've got bosses that have incorrect sprites. They're missing the ready text at the start of levels. I don't know how the game has got so completely messed up. But that seems to be typical of those MSI NES-based things. The Namco one that was just emulated, Dig 2, the life counter, the single tile is corrupt. And you just wonder how that happens and how it gets into the released product. Yeah, I mean, this is typical Capcom quality artwork, isn't it? I'm not so familiar with the original, how they looked on the NES versions. But, yeah, it's a good looking game. I really should be using the weapons too, shouldn't I? I mean, it's definitely better looking Mega Man than, you know, was it the NES? Not the. This was the version with the terrible box art. Was it the USA NES one? You see, I can change weapon. I have leave attack now. There you go. Unfortunately, you do have to know which weapon to use on which stage. And you do have limited amounts of them, I believe. I've got no red weapon left now. Can you just leave? I don't really want that. Do I have red weapon? No, I don't have any red weapon left. Okay. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Definitely better than that artwork. Just so many bad pieces of box art from that era though. Or so many bits of box art that just had nothing to do with the games. And I do watch a fair number of streams of people doing sort of 8-bit home computer games, and you can tell whoever made the box art didn't know anything about the game. They didn't even know what genre the game was in. They just sort of had a title and went, okay, we'll do something with that. And they end up nothing, you know, just absolutely nothing to do with the game. You don't know what you're getting. I mean, for all the bad ones, there are some really good ones. Some genuinely good pieces of art that ended up on the box that give you something to think about and give you an idea of what maybe the game would have looked like if it had good graphics. But it's sometimes you just don't know, do you? I'm trying to think of... So I really like the Ant-Attack box art. I mentioned Ant-Attack earlier. That's got a giant ant on it attacking the city. That's exactly what you want to see with box art for something like Ant-Attack. I mean, okay, in-game, they're not quite as big as shown on the box. They're sort of human-sized ants. It sort of sets the scene. It tells you what you want. But then you look at something like Home Runner on the CPC, which is a terrible game, but the cover looks like it's a sports game. You know, it looks like maybe it's not even it doesn't even look like a baseball game. It just looks like somebody running in a race. And the game isn't a sports game, it isn't a race. That's a nice effect, isn't it? Cutting out the background. But yeah, this sounds all good to me. And I'm not going to put Forgotten Worlds on, even though that's the main one people have been highlighting as having terrible sound, because that doesn't give it out. Nor does the Japanese title Lost Worlds. Now, I'm probably going to switch to another console game at some point. Maybe that's not what I want. The special attacks don't last very long. Yeah, have a boulder. I think the Mega Man 2 does, you know, take this formula and just does everything even better than this. But this is not a bad game. I played Metro's Gunmaster on a previous stream, and compared it to this, and they're both similar. Arena fighters with a shooting mechanic. See, that doesn't bother me because I'm not familiar with the themes in the first place. But I suppose if I was, yeah, it would bother me. Anyway, let's exit out of that one for now. Before we go console, let's go plug and play. This is only going to be very briefly played. Mattel Classic Sports. Now, what's interesting about this one is the previous MAME release, pardon me, is the one that actually emulates the originals of most of these. I don't think it does football yet, unless that's in a different driver. It should be. But there's a switch on this, and you can go baseball, basketball, or football. Now, I played the actual handheld version of the basketball one, the other stream. For some reason I forgot to launch this one and have a look at it. But there you go, you see, you've got I don't think I want to change sound. It's the same thing, you've got to try and get to the basket and you've got to shoot. There we go. But instead of little LED lamps, they've done it on the, they've done it on the screen. But in the sense of being a plug and play that is going to actually remind you of how the game was, I think they've done a fairly good job here. It's a very simple thing, so not much to look at. But until the others were emulated, you could have done worse than play this one. And if you had these and enjoyed them growing up, this would have probably been a nice little present. But obviously the original devices would have been a better present. But, I'm controlling the bigger red dot. Move up, move to the basket. Score. I think there's a sound missing, maybe. Oh, and of course it's got music, and the original didn't have any music because it was just a little LCD handheld game. Yeah, as I say, as little plug and plays go, I think this one is one of the nice ones. I mean, it's still a very simple game, but I just thought I'd throw this on quickly. Anyway, that is enough of that one. Yeah, where was I going to go? Okay, I'm going to go back to the Mega Drive. Right. I always like games with cute Sega animations, and this just fit the bill. This is Marsupilami. Now, there's a reason I wanted to put this one on, and that is because it is a game where there seems to be a noticeable difference between the USA version and the European version right from the off. I mean, I'm playing the USA version here, and you'll notice the first puzzle, the first platform, is a very simple, flat one. You just make your ladder, or your steps even, and there we go. It's all flat. If I need to turn this one up, just let me know, because the Mega Drive is quite quiet, as I mentioned. But yeah, this is a case of, you get the elephant to the end of the level. So I guess you could call it an escort game, and nobody likes escort games. Yeah, I thought it might help to boost it. It's a bit, it's boosted up a bit now. I've changed them. I mean, this is obviously a European game. I didn't even realise it was released in the US actually, but apparently it was. I mean, it's not even something I've heard of here in the UK. I think it's mostly a European thing, isn't it? But I guess a puzzle game is a puzzle game. But yeah, you're guiding the elephant along. And different levels will give you different tools, different things you can do with your tail. Yeah. I'm sure there are plenty more examples. Oh, no. Oop, what am I doing? You've got to get the elephant to... Fine, there we go. So the elephant's got to drink the water before the elephant can actually put out the flame here. But if... The most biblical arcade game I've ever played. What am I doing here? Okay, I can't remember how to get this done. Anyway, I did that earlier, no problem. I got the elephant to put the fire out and got past it. But I've forgotten how to do it right now. Most biblical arcade game. Not many are coming to mind. I mean, there's Noah's Ark, but is it really an arcade game? It's a kids thing. Oh my god, yeah, that's a good puzzle game. Is it biblical? I'm not sure. But yeah, oh my god is definitely one that I play a bit of. Reminds me of Wild Snake on the Mega Drive, which is an unreleased prototype, which I still think should have been released. I do notice with this shader, there's quite a few places where it doesn't actually fade to black entirely with the phosphor decay, like the animation there. Anyway, this is the European version of this. The difficulty is set to medium, just like the USA version. But immediately, the pickups here are different, and this is not flat. The puzzle is more difficult in the original European release. So I have to actually go a bit further and collect other bits first. So I guess they wanted to simplify the game for the American audience. We need water to actually get the elephant to drink early on. Well, these stop. Huh? Do you need water? I think you need water. What do these ones do? Let's just go back and try. I think... Where is elephant? Let's put that there. That one mouse. I mean, I guess with it being an obscure IP in the first place, yeah, so the elephant will sit down and actually eat that, which gives you time to put the tail back, or should in theory give you time to put the tail back down. But obviously you've got to get the timing right in the puzzle this time, rather than it being just a simple case of just use the one set of stairs. So if I actually get it right this time, and get my jump buttons right, now the elephant's paused there, so I can put the stairs there, and that's how you get the elephant over this one. Which obviously is an extra step compared to the American one, which didn't have the extra crate up there. But that is throughout the whole level. The entire first level design is changed. I don't know. I couldn't find any reference online to other things that had changed, so I don't know if nobody's actually studied the game to see what was changed and what wasn't. But I did find that to be quite an interesting difference when I was doing a bit of testing earlier. What else am I going to look at? That's not that one. I wasn't sure if it worked or not. Okay. Let's look at a Taito shooter. Master of Weapon. This is one where a few years ago a prototype called Yukiwo showed up, and the Yukiwo prototype is more obviously based on Akira, but it eventually would become this Master of Weapon game because Taito didn't have the license. September the 11th, 1990. It says it's Yukiwo on this one. Destroyed city. Not on the same level as say Spring Eagle 2A, you couldn't destroy everything. It's Master of Weapon. Obviously we've got Seibu's influences with the ground openings. And Mad Gear was the final iteration of OD Score. This is more of a shooter. Thank you for subscribing. Extreme Man. If you're in the chat, feel free to say hi. You could have more than one weapon. I might put Mad Gear on in a bit, that was on the list. Mad Gear is not my favourite version of weapons, so this is probably a bit loud again, isn't it? Actually, looking at the volume levels. Let's turn it down a little bit. Yeah, I think it did. I've not played the Mega Drive version. Didn't even know it existed until emulation. But I have a vague memory of firing it up in the Mega Drive driver. I did actually want to talk more, look more at the prototype, which doesn't begin with M, but you know, tangents. Apparently Yukiwo was actually one of the programmers, so I was thinking were there any games named after companies or the actual programmers, and this could be one of them. But you see, the style is much more like the manga here. In the title, this game is very similar. September the 3rd this time, or September the 11th here. Yeah, okay. I think it's got more story. That's the thing. There is more story in this version of the game than the other one. most of this story was stripped out. As you see, the other one just started with the September 11th opening. This one has all those extra little bits of story. As prototypes go, I did find this to be one of the more interesting ones when it was dumped. Because there are significant changes, things that were in here that got stripped out. And if you're looking at prototypes, you sort of want to see that. You don't just want something that feels like an incomplete version of the game. You want to see content that was there that got removed. There's quite a few little changes to the graphics, the sprites and everything else. And I'm very bad at it. Almost like a different game. Almost. But here I've not instantly flown out over a cityscape. There's a lot more to this level. But this annoying background alarm goes on for far too long. It's a bit like if you're playing Gunmail and you're down to your last health bar, there'll be an alarm playing until you die. And in Gunmail that's especially annoying because you score most points when you're low on health, so the strategy for high score runs on Gunmail is to lose all your lives, but that means you've got an alarm playing for the entire game. And there we go. I think I'm on GCC 10 now. I think I did run an update on it because the updates do work again now. You can actually update the package. So I don't know. Yes, this prototype is different. If you've not played it, it's one of those that is worth checking out. If you played Lockmaster Weapon and didn't realise this had been dumped a few years ago. The ship is incredibly sluggy. But yeah, that was wanted to demonstrate that prototype a little bit. Where do I go from here? Pulling all-nighters doesn't work for me anymore, unfortunately. Just tends to mess it up even more. Okay. Moon War, the prototype version. This is another I'm going to probably feature again on the sequels stream when I start talking more about sequels. But the story behind this one is that the sound ROMs were dumped for quite a while, but we didn't know what they were from. And then a board with the soundboard missing turned up, but it had the program ROMs on for this game called Moon War, and they happened to just pair up. So, despite being found on different sides of the planet, the sound ROMs and the main game ROMs were dumped and went together and matched, and it's possible it was the only copy of the game that existed that somehow had been split in two. And this is obviously, as you can hear from the voices running and the visuals, is running on the same type of hardware as Berserk. The most common Moon War game is also a source of confusion because all the PCBs were marked Moon War 2, so people would go, "Oh, I've got this Moon War 2 game, this Moon War 2 board. Does it need dumping?" And it'd get dumped, it would match what MAME knew as Moon War. And those were all known as Moon War 2 on the PCBs because this was the original Moon War, the one that wasn't released. So, while Moon War, the release version doesn't say Moon War 2 on the title screen, it does say Moon War 2 on the PCBs. Which did confuse quite a few people. I like this one better. It's got you know, your classic Berserk speech. And if I've used the Berserk speech for the subscribers and followers. Although I don't think I've updated my YouTube sounds yet. So that follow earlier might have been a Twitch one actually. Same sort of high score screen as Berserk. I guess this was probably considered too far behind the times in terms of technology when it was going to be released, so they went with the more standard looking game instead with backgrounds. But when you take things out of the time period, this just feels more like a classic game, whereas the release meanwhile is more forgettable. I'll put that one on in a bit anyway. You've got your different types of attack, you've got your mines, you've got your flip button, so it's a bit like Defender in the sense it's got different controls. I think there's a hyperspace button too. Yes, Master's Fury was one of the recent additions. And yeah, the PlayStation version of the Master's Fighter. I might put that on. I just probably won't get past the first level because I found that really difficult. I ended up testing that one by finding some cheats and just enabling the cheats to make sure that all the stages worked. BBH did a far better playthrough of that and pulled out teardown of the game than I could ever hope to. Yeah, you look at the smiley faces.
Use your deflector shields. Enemy at 2 o'clock. Enemy at 2 o'clock. Plasma bolts ready, Captain. Watch your hour.
How many controls? So there's 4 buttons.
Use your deflector shields.
Yeah, there's a, you know, there's...
Enemy at 4 o'clock.
I can't remember what all the controls are anymore. Yeah, I enjoy this one. I can't remember how to use all the... See, it tells you all the controls all the time, even though you are using them.
Watch out. Watch your hour.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly look at the other Moon Wars. This is the released version of Moon War, which is just... I mean, I'd much rather play what I was just playing. This is not a better game because it's got a background. It's got these tiny little sprites. Doesn't seem to have the speech. How this was the released version and the one I was just playing ended up being relegated to a prototype we're very lucky to actually have dumped at all. Just, it's very difficult for me to understand. This is a very average game. But yeah, let's put Master's Fury on them. Looks like we're hitting the 2-hour mark. As usual, my plan is to try and keep these streams to about 3 hours. So there's another hour or so to go, I'd say. Now, this is one I do actually keep meaning to try the PlayStation version in the PlayStation Driver, but haven't got around to doing that yet. But yeah, Korean fighting game from Unico and Game Tech. Sort of sequel to Dragon Master, but it feels a little less polished and is not as well balanced. Not that Dragon Master is the best balanced game in the world, but this one apparently has worse balance issues and a lot more cheating computer AI issues. Also, if you don't know the moves, you're not going to get anywhere. And oh, there we go. There's a move. It's not hitting. It's a game tech logo, isn't that one? Well, one there. I think there's some other stages too. There we go. I lost. There are a few interesting things, but the way the win markers float above the characters and the life bars being on the bottom of the screen, which is unusual. Although it does mean that when you're jumping, the life bars kind of obscure the other player. There's nothing. The top of the screen is unused, so you can see why that's not really a common arrangement for life bars. Oh, I didn't lose. That's a miracle. Not the type that I'm being asked to perform. I suppose fighting games aren't really the best games to play on keyboard either. You know, you want to. They are games where you want some sort of stick with easy to do half circle motions and the like. Trying to do half circles on keyboards, it's not always the best. And the character select screen here, up and down to go through the characters, is awkward. Some questionable design decisions. No, I'm not going to get anywhere on that one. I'd need to practice that if I was to try and play it well, and I probably still wouldn't manage to play it well even then. This is what I've been emulating recently. If you've watched my videos on YouTube prior to this, you'll have seen this. Is this the right one? Yeah. Mousetrap. Begins with M. Now, I don't really understand why they made this. It's a mousetrap board, but yeah, I'm just speed through that. Basically, most of what you do is just press a button and have your move. And it's got this terrible background loop of dun, 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 over and over again, which sounds bad enough on the real hardware, but when the emulation is not quite right, it sounds even worse. But yeah. Would you really want to spend your time playing this? I mean, even if I speed it up to turbo speed, it's not thrilling. So it's Mousetrap, but aside from the odd input near the end of the game, where you get to choose if you want to move your opponent or not, or which opponent you want to move, it is just a case of pressing the button and letting it roll the dice and watching the pieces move around the board. I mean, it's not as bad as Candyland on the other one of these things, where there are literally no choices to make at all, and the entire game is just pressing the button and watching the pieces move around the board, but it's not far off. So let's not play that Mousetrap. Let's instead play Mousetrap, the Exity game from '81. That sounded tasty. But Exity '81, I believe this is one of the ones that is actually one that's free to download. on MAME Dev because it's one of the old Exidy games. I'm standing by. There we go. Yeah, even the original Mousetrap. It's one of those I think everybody wanted, and then you got it and it was just like, this is a bit disappointing. Nope. Change to a dog. Now this, for an early game, because this is 81, has a surprising number of buttons. You've got a different colour button for each of the gate colours, and you've got a button to turn into a dog. Obviously you're eating all the cheese. Yeah, Mousetrap is one of those I remember wanting and getting, and then pretty much like that game, realising aside from building the thing, which never seemed to work properly anyway, it wasn't actually that much fun. There, you know, you would have thought maybe there'd be different ways to put things together, but there really aren't. Yeah, sampled speech. It's not that common back when this was released, and it sounds good too. You've got all the animal sounds. 4 buttons. It's not just a Pac-Man clone. It's a game that holds up on its own. But I don't really know why the dog eats cheese. But there you go. Yeah, some of these early games, like Berserk, still sound really good with the, you know, that's got its speech chip. This has got some sampled speech. Sampled sound even. 81. I think if I hadn't been born in the year 81, this is something I might have played, but you know, this was the year of my birth. Anything with cats that go meow. No, you've got to play it. That teleports you there now. I don't see many people talking about this one or playing this one. I'm not sure why. You've got elements of... I mean, lock and chase is another one where you're locking gates behind things, but in this case you have full control over the gates. It's not timed. You can flip them with the coloured gate buttons at any point you want. The big cheese. No, maybe. I've never known a dog to especially love cheese. I know our cats are terrified of grated cheese. They run away. Not quite sure why. They've always done that. A regular lump of cheese, that you know, they'll be quite interested in it. A grated cheese, they're terrified of. Change into a dog one. There we go. Bonus mouse. But yeah, if I'm going to play a Mousetrap game, this is definitely better than playing that terrible plug and play or the board game. Bit of different music here too. Again, perfect chase music too. I mean, it could be one of those things like they think it looks like a snake, but they've never seen a snake, so... But they'll dart from one end of the house to another if you put great cheese in front of them. Anyway, that was a mousetrap. This is where I don't survive for very long. Yeah, it's very similar to the cucumber reaction. I've never tried ours with cucumbers, but yeah. All right, good night, Orgai. I hope you've enjoyed your time here. Thank you for watching and thank you for participating and having a bit of a chat. It's always good. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or night, or I can't remember what time. If you mentioned what time it was there. Here we go. Mushihime-Sama Futari. This is the version 1.5, I believe. No, that's what I want. Yeah, there you go. Version 1.5. Speed to this. There we go. One of the cave shooters. One of the cave shooters where the slowdown is not emulated. One of the cave shooters where the slowdown is not emulated, and it's got an ultra mode. And it even asks you if you're sure. Which is kind of it. And that's why it asks you if you're sure. Right from the off, more bullets than you know what to do with. Now, I remember optimising this driver just to make it sure it ran at full speed without, MAME slowing to a crawl when all this was going on. That was quite a challenge because this is moving a lot. Yeah, no shooters on a cave on Ultra mode, because I think this is the most manic of the Ultra modes on any of the Futari games too. The God mode on Black Label seems more manageable. But this is just... what? I mean, there's programmed slowdown there, it's the blitter slowdown that's not emulated, but... yeah. When Luca originally did this driver, nothing was running at full speed. It was all like about sort of 20% speed on the machine that I had, so I just had to try and optimise every code path for the blitter as tightly as I could. Then a few years later, added the recompiler support to the SH3, but I still haven't got a clue how to actually get the slowdowns accurate, especially not without really harming the emulation performance too, because you add in many more calculations to try and calculate what's being drawn and what's not, and it's quite a challenge to improve it. Yes, I'm just bombing the boss. I think you've also got memory speeds and the like coming to play too with these, because as far as I know the later boards had faster memory. Pardon me. So it might be even more complex than just reverse engineering the FPGA. There is the unsafe blitter option and the slowdowns, but yeah, I can't remember where everything is. Yeah, blitter delays in there, so you can, but it does say it's unsafe, so it's not thread safe, which means sometimes you get sprite dropouts and the like, but it does approximate some of the slowdowns. Also, you can't record any imps when you're using it because they'll go out of sync, because it will run differently every time depending on background tasks and the like. But yeah, that's that mode. I think that mode is worse in terms of what's going on in the so-called God mode here. This is the Black Label version, which instead has God mode, which also... oh no, this one doesn't confirm. I think this is toned down slightly. That was my general feeling from it. It's not throwing quite as many bullets. It's still throwing a lot of bullets at me, but not quite as many. It's almost manageable. I actually completed the first stage on this without dying when I was trying it earlier. And I definitely couldn't do that on the other version. But there's something soothing about seeing all these explosions go off, these patterns flying around the screen. I might be terrible at the games, but I can play them almost to relax, while knowing I'm really bad at them. Evening, Custado. How are you doing? But yeah, getting accurate speeds on anything modern is really tricky. Even the CPU execution, so many conditions to how fast something runs, cache and the like. That's why optimizing anything is difficult in the first place on a modern platform. Very pretty game, very difficult game on that mode, especially without the slowdowns. Should I put the original version on? Rather than Futari. The actual original Mushi. Of course, there is another cave game beginning with M. That's the Mushi Pork, but I might not play that one today. But yeah, this is the original game, not Futari, and this is a lot more casual in terms of the pace. It does have an ultra mode, but let's not put an ultra mode. I do love these green explosions though, there's something about them. I think because you're not expecting an explosion to be green, so when you see it this vibrant green colour, it just looks really good. Just give it that sort of... It gives it the look they're going for. Mystical insects. The art in these is actually really good, and they've not overdone it on the blending. Well, I'm playing it really badly. Usually I can complete the first 2 or 3 levels on this without a problem. I think it's because I'm trying to talk at the same time. Well, yes, I would definitely wish you luck with that. I mean, I think I'd wish you luck with that even if the game is sort of running at 10% speed. Because sometimes you can see things, and even if if you've not put yourself in the right place, it's going to be a tough task dodging those bullets. I did try playing some shooters at reduced speed like that myself, sort of putting MAME down to so it was running at 10% speed, and still managed to do really badly just because I'd not put my ship in the right place and had lots of bullets coming in my direction with no obvious path through. Although that was silly. It's always fun to see these it being played in high score challenges, especially if everybody is on the level footing and being told, okay, use MAME, no slowdown options, see what score you can get. Obviously, you can't compare score against PCBs where there is the slowdown. If you play MAME players against MAME players, then it's still you can still play competitively. I mean, personally, I still think this is maybe the best looking of the games on this hardware. And it was one of the earliest ones too. I know not everybody likes the art style that much, but for me it works. I mean, it's much nicer than, say, Pink Sweets, which I find to be really ugly. Yeah, Guranga was a cave game. Psycho, it's not really a Psycho style game. Yeah, I played that one on a previous stream. And that one plays differently because it's got the whole targeting mechanic with the so you're aiming the other character around, aren't you, to fire? But it is one of the memorable ones. Probably my favourite of that generation of cave games. You can divide them sort of into the generations. You've got the sort of Cave Atlas hardware ones, and then you've got the PGM ones, and then you've got those SH3 ones, and the odd one that's just running on entirely different hardware, like the PC-based Death Mouse 2, which is going to be a pain to ever emulate properly. Williams 83. Mystic Marathon. Now this is one where I think last year the palette emulation was changed to make it look more like the videos we've got, because before everything was kind of pink, the water was pink. Now only the sky is really quite pink and the water is more blue. I'm not 100% sure it's perfect like this, but it does at least look more like it should. This is a race, really, hence Mystic Marathon. You've got to race against all these other characters. You've got to know where the shortcuts are, so you know, that's not one of them. The frame rate lets us down a little, I have to say. Yeah. And I missed that. This isn't how you play this game at all. Yeah, it definitely looks a lot better. I just know some people who said they were familiar with the game and owned the boards disagreed with how it had been done, but they didn't have the boards anymore to actually prove that it was right or wrong. I think there was something said about it being a monitor adjustment difference, and they were saying no, they had turkey hunt and this and the monitor didn't need adjusting. And I don't know, it made me a bit reluctant to show it off at the time, because one of the people who was interested in seeing it improve did not seem happy with the improvements. But personally, I think it looks a lot better now. It doesn't just look like a murky pink and purple mess. Yeah, I think the problem is the boards are quite rare now. The people that did own them and have sold them on because they've had good offers for them, and so they don't have them for reference anymore. Again, it's one of the issues. People will find out somebody's got a board, they'll make a silly money offer for them, and that person will sell that board because they don't think they're going to get that again in the future. I think System 11 mentioned some of his boards, he got silly offers for them and just sold them. I don't know if they were ones he'd already dumped or ones that were undumped. I know at one point he did have a bunch of undumped music games on the DG Pick style hardware, which I was hoping with Olivia working on the sound CPU that would get dumped, because they'd probably be good good test cases. But for all I know, those might be the ones he ended up selling for the music games. But I just don't know. He's not come forward to say he's going to dump any of them, at least. But people are busy, so it might just be a case of few years from now, you go, oh yeah, I found a bit of time to do this, and here are some dumps. I really don't know. Avoid the sharks. Sharks are bad. I can't think of many other games that are sort of race games like this. In the sense of running race, straight line. You've got Escape Kids that's a circuit racer, more like super off-road in a circuit. But this concept, Dashing Desperados on the Mega Drive is player versus player race game that I think might have an arcade prototype somewhere because it's so similar to Icy Havoc and it's presented like an arcade game, but there's no really evidence to actually show that. But yeah, I think this is one where I still need to go back to my collection of 2020 screenshots and add screenshots of it to show it's improved. I did not finish in the top 3. Nope. Insert coin to try again. I will pass. I just wanted a little race on that to show the palette improvements because I think they may have been overlooked. Ooh, okay. Right. I'm going to play Manhunt. Not that Manhunt. Manhunt on the Game King. This should really be promoted too. But as far as I'm concerned, the Game King works well enough to be promoted at this point. Sorry, animation freeze as well. I just tower away from the screen. Manhunt. Oops, okay, I quit Manhunt. There we go. Now, I've covered the Game King before at its fantastic resolution of 48 by 32 pixels in 2003. But you know, you can never cover the Game King too often. At least that's what I keep telling myself. That doesn't surprise me. I think all the music on these Game King games is stolen from somewhere. And obviously it's short sample loops. But even with stolen music, it sounds a lot better than silence. Again, I did a lot better on this when I played it earlier. But the thing is, as primitive as they are, there is actually gameplay hidden away in quite a few of these. It's a bit like having sort of one of those VMU games on the Dreamcast or something like that. Oh, I got to a big boss and died, and I'm back at the start of the level. Yeah, the thing is, I think most of the cartridge capacity on these must be used by the music, because it's definitely not being used by the graphics. So even with that, they've only managed to get a short loop sample. I seem to remember the Pocket Station did run some things last time I tried it, but I can't remember what I tried with it. need to go up the ladder now. Yeah, as I say, some of these Game King games are actually playable. Most of them are fast and smooth, so if you can work out what's going on past the very low resolution visuals, it's not the worst handheld to have. It's just not really competitive for a 2003 system in terms of technology. Low on health. So I die instantly again. Nope. The boss has a lot of health. Yeah, that was Manhunt, not the Rockstar game. Shall we continue with silly little novelties for a little bit? Yeah, let's continue with silly little novelties for a little bit. Got some Game Boy Color. What's it called? I was browsing the Game Boy Color game list and I saw this. Oh, wrong filter, wrong shader for this. I wanted the LCD one, but you'll have to do with a regular one. Microsoft Puzzle Collection. Now, I thought this was going to be Freecell and the like. Although there is one that is Freecell and the like and Minesweeper, but no, that's not this one. It just seems strange to me seeing Microsoft on a Game Boy Color. This isn't Chip Challenge. I mean, I mostly know Chip Challenge from the Spectrum, I think. But this has wonders such as Rat Poker. I think this music might be a bit off, but you know. Now, this game isn't poker. It does have rats. But really, all you do is swap rats around when they're over the square. To make, you know... I can pick this rat up here. No, wrong button. I can't pick it up with that button. So I can pick up rats and throw them away. Put them back where they need to go. Except that wasn't what I wanted to do. This is I pick up the red one. Now there's a row of 3 blue rats, and the blue rats go. So yeah, I get rid of the green one out of here. Put the green one. No, I didn't want to swap with the green one. There we go. There are a few issues with the Game Boy sound emulation, so it wouldn't surprise me if this is really not how it's meant to sound. Might be about to fail. I think I've got too many rats. No, there we go. More rats. No, there we go. I've got 4 in a row now. There should be 4 going down there. Now, as much as I want to criticise this game, I played this and thought this is still more original than any of the puzzle games I've played in the some of those plug and plays. I mean, yeah, it's kind of terrible. Also, I really don't know what it has to do with Microsoft. I don't remember this being on Windows, unless it's like some really old Windows 3.1 game. Yeah, maybe is this some Windows 3.1 game? Because I have never seen this before outside of playing it now. I didn't know Chip's Challenge was on a Microsoft pack though. I do just remember it from the home computers. But yeah, Dual Chase. So this is you can go around the red sections but jump over the blue ones. unless you go to the part where you move between the half and half tile, and then you go into the blue sections and can jump over the red ones. Again, it's, you know, it's quite an original puzzle idea compared to a lot of the ones I've played. So if this is really how it is meant to sound, then but I don't think it is. I forgot to get that one there. It sounds bad, is how it sounds. I mean, I'll turn the audio up a little bit. It sounds completely out of tune. Unless this is a USA European version difference, but I don't think that applies to the Game Boy, does it? I mean, I know there are different versions, but are there different machines? I mean, no, there's only one Game Boy Color machine, so I guess it's not a regional difference on the machine. But yeah, sorry, pardon me. It just sounds bad. But I do remember there being bug reports open on MAME testers about the Game Boy sound. Ah, okay. I never had the Microsoft Entertainment Pack puzzle pack for Windows 95. That would make sense, but why I've never seen that game. Still, I think they kind of suit being on a Game Boy Color, though. You know, it's a handheld system where you're going to want to carry around little puzzle games to occupy your time, and it did seem like an entertaining enough puzzle collection, better than a lot of these, say, these handheld plug and play ones where the puzzle games are so basic I can't find any enjoyment in them. There's the odd good puzzle game. I'm not saying they're all bad, but a lot of them are bad. Okay, I'm going to go fighting game again. People seem to mention this one a lot, and this is IGS's Martial Masters. I think I might have... Did I play this on the fighting game stream? I might have done. But it's an M game, and I can have another look at it. Yeah, I think a lot of people did play it on the Lynx, actually, because it was one of those sort of killer apps on the Lynx, wasn't it? Not that many people had Lynx machines, but those that did, I seem to remember talking about Chip's Challenge. Before this was emulated, it was often compared to the likes of Street Fighter 3 in terms of the animation. And maybe that's a bit far, but it is well animated. Yeah, I should look more at some Lynx games as well, because I think the Lynx emulation is fairly good. I know it fails some copy protection check on a later release game that was just added, but I bet that's either some actual protection on the cartridge that was dumped, or it's checking some specific hardware behaviour for making sure it's not an emulator. So that might actually be useful for improving something if it's the latter, unless it's just a really difficult check to get right. I mean, some anti-emulator checks can be nasty from what I remember. Aren't some of the Game Boy Advance ones checking cache behaviour and the like on the ARM? Is it the NES ports on the GB or something like that? They do some nasty checks, which are easy to bypass but not easy to emulate. So I've been not having much luck with Game Boy Advance actually. Lots of the ones I've been trying haven't run. But I don't know enough about the system to know why that might be. I was trying to play Pinball of the Dead. That didn't seem to boot past the initial screen. Well, you know, the monk must have been a very bad monk, so I'm beating up a monk. Not all monks are good. Some of them are fake monks. That was a fake monk, okay? I have to say the character name Crane and the level with loads of cranes. The AI is not always the best on this game. I think I said that before. Also, if SNES Drunk ever does a review of this, I'm sure they will have to play as Drunk Master. It does have some really good art, this. Yeah, maybe it needs revisiting then. I don't know what the state of GBA... I guess there's lots of good GBA emulators out there now, but in terms of source licenses and the like, it might be worth studying. I'd assume the actual ARM emulation, aside from some of those things like Cache, is probably solid enough. Yeah, there's quite a few like that, to be fair. I feel that way about the Mega Drive one. I can make minor improvements to it, but it does really need rewriting to be an entirely different model. Almost running the VDE like it was a CPU. Sync to every pixel, but I have a feeling MAME would hate me for trying to do that. And then I've got to find a way to integrate that into the other drivers like the System 18 and everything else if I go that route. And it gets very complex very quickly, and I don't think I'd ever actually get it working. Which is why I've not touched it. I think it's a bit beyond what I can do. Yeah. The NES PPU, especially for some of the games that don't use it properly. You know, the ones that are accidentally using wrong timings and expecting misaligned sprite lists because they were programmed badly. I think with the NES one, you're better off just doing a new driver and then porting things over to them one at a time. I think just replacing it outright and attempting to do it in one would not work. Especially because then you've got to build up all the variants on top of it. And the PAL version's got significantly different behaviours to the others. The early one that's in the Famicom has different behaviours. And you've got all the mappers that tie quite heavily into signals from it. I mean, the whole raster effect. Scanline timers are based on signals going high and low from when it's fetching graphics. And all this BT stuff makes a mess on top of that too. I've not figured all that out yet. And the SH6578, which I probably should revisit myself now because I know it's more like the NES than I thought. I think the scanline times work in the same way. And I know that needs the DMA timing to be somewhat better for one of the games not to corrupt, because it was mentioned to me by another developer who'd done it in their NES emulator. Anyway, that was Martial Masters. You can pick up terrible NES clones all over the place. I think some of those plug and plays I got probably do run NES stuff as well, the ones with the cartridge slots, but I've thrown most of the parts of them out because even if I was to get them running, the controllers are so bad they're not worth using. This begins with M. MC Hammer. Apparently, did this have a background? If it does, I don't have the background. Again, that's probably my config files getting wiped out, actually. Yeah. Hold on. No? Is this playable without art? Because apparently I don't have any art. Interesting. I thought I'd extracted all the art files. Apparently I did not. Oh well, I'm going to have to see how it plays without art. I think the art would just be a background, wouldn't it? But what are the buttons? Okay. That's too many buttons. IKJLETF. Let's just hammer some buttons and see what happens. I think you're meant to copy the move, aren't you? It's going to be a case of those are the moves you can do with your arms and legs. You've got 8 buttons. Copy what happens on the screen. So that's arms up, legs up, I'd assume. Which would be E. No. Tiger Games. 2 D-pads type things. Yeah, so I can control it. Yeah, I should have probably researched this one. I just saw it was M and thought I'd launch it. I will come back to that. I could do. Don't know which side's which. W, S, A, D, I, K. This is what the control says. Oh. Do I watch first and then copy? That can't be the case. It's not Simon, is it? Well, you know, I can just pretend and dance and there we go. I mean, I'm making a music video. I don't think the background makes any difference here. I think this is a case of, you know, you probably have to get the manual and it will tell you exactly what you're doing, exactly what each of the game modes do. Because sometimes the controls don't seem to respond to anything. But now I can hammer the controls and it does nothing, so I must be waiting. Now I can do something. But maybe it's something to do with these dots that are appearing. Maybe I have to kick them. You see, this is the difference between Tiger games and Game & Watch games. A Game & Watch game, you play it, you can work out what you're doing. A Tiger game, you play it and you press all the buttons and they don't do anything half the time and you don't know what you're doing at all. So I might come back to that one another time. Might. Probably won't. Because it doesn't seem very good. What time are we on? 2 hours 49. Okay. Let's put on Metamorquesta, which is not the most memorable game title. It's another Banpresto game. This is loud. Okay, this is another one of those sort of fight the big boss type fighting games. A bit like, you know, Capcom's Red Earth and Konami's Monster Maulers. Monster Maulers was a consideration to play, but the version that's actually called Monster Maulers is a bit rubbish because it's got loads of content removed and the other version doesn't come with them. I'm trying to go on as few little tangents and alt versions that don't begin with the right letter as I can, really. And you had Yukiwo earlier, so... But, I've been I think I mentioned before I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter World lately, and that kind of reminds me of this style of game. You're just fighting against a much bigger creature. So it's not your traditional fighter. So, you know, doesn't mean I'm any better at it. Yeah, I mean, I've managed to have some fun with some of the tag games before, but it is a case of spending time with them and just working out what you're meant to do. They're not pick up and play. Even that one, I'm pretty sure it's just meant to be some sort of dual pad Simon clone. I couldn't work out exactly when I was meant to be doing any inputs. And I've lost 2 lives defeating this boss. I look like the Jalico logo. I like the cat-like background here. The contrast between the enemies in the background on this stage isn't great. It can be quite difficult to see the enemy. Similar palette. I'm sure there are lots of moves to this that I don't know. There's an extra button as well. Yeah, there's a fire button. There you go. So again, we were looking at Mega Man earlier, and that was a similar concept of player versus bosses. This obviously has much bigger bosses, but it's similar. There aren't many games in this subgenre in terms of arcades either, because when I was looking at Gunmaster, I wasn't quite sure what the genre would be called, but it just seemed to end up being sort of this, Monster Maulers, Mega Man, and Gunmaster standing on their own. But you know, that one again, I think I'd have to learn what I'm doing more so than just trying to dive straight into it. There are so many M games, so many M games. I've got like 5 minutes left. Let's end on a classic. Moon Patrol. So this one seems quiet. Moon Patrol is one of those games that everybody seems to know because there were lots of clones of it. But then if you look at official ports, a lot of them are really bad or didn't happen. So, it's got a bit of character, this one. The wheels going up and down against the ground. The multiple scrolling left. And I think there were some emulation improvements over the last few years, or at least adjustments to where the backgrounds render, because apparently they weren't quite positioned correctly. Yeah, that's what I thought. I know I had to touch the drive a little bit when I was looking at that Kyle Hodgett's game, Alpha 1, because that actually seems to maybe use. It's a terrible game, but I think it uses the hardware in different ways, and I can't remember now. But I know I had to make some adjustments so that that actually ran and the layers were correctly positioned there. This has got sort of dedicated ROMs for things you might not expect, and the very large tiles I think that make up the background. Some odd graphic decodes in the driver. And I can't remember. Yeah, so 16 by 16. Yeah, 256 by 128 decodes on all those for the large background images. So they're more like big texture pages, well, a single big texture rather than a tile map. It's a bit unusual to see. Oh dear. Yeah. Multi-layered backgrounds in hardware. I think there are some strict limits to where they can be placed. But, it's not a hardware type I'm overly familiar with, apart from, you know, that Kyle Hodgett's game. And that's another one of those, why would you convert your perfectly good Moon Patrol? One thing that's surprising, I'm assuming this does have the full IRM sound hardware, the analog drums, but I don't think it uses the drums. Unless it doesn't have the full hardware, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a different hardware type, I can't remember now actually. I know Kung Fu Master doesn't make very good use of that hardware. I do actually prefer Horizon over this, which is sort of a semi-sequel with multiple planes to go between. It's got the same type of gameplay. Not jumping over holes, but moving between planes in that case. You're still firing up while moving backwards and forwards. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of innovation back in the 80s. We had Mousetrap earlier where you've got the sampled speech and everything, and that still sounds really good. And here you've got your multiple scrolling layers. Horizon seems to be one of those very rare games. I think these days, if it shows up, it goes for silly money. I have broken a record. Yeah, I'd definitely call Horizon a spiritual successor to this anyway. This section with the rolling boulders always reminds me of the Wonder Boy 2. I believe that's got similar sections to this. There. Right, so that was Moon Patrol. We are now over the 3-hour mark, which means I will be closing the stream down now. So thanks to everybody that has joined and been participating in the chat. Thank you to MameFan and Ryan for the donations earlier. So I'll try and put those to good use, picking up some plug and plays or something like that. And you know, hopefully there's some that are of interest. So we'll see. So yeah, I will probably be streaming again. You know, probably about a week from now, maybe before. I'm trying to make sure I do something every week, although I want to do something yesterday, I want to do something the day before, end up getting a bit carried away doing the plug and play board game emulation instead. Right, thanks for lurking as well, Johnny. I know you've not really said anything in the chat, but it's good to know there are people here just lurking as well and enjoying the stream. And yeah, I know you've left a few comments on YouTube videos and things like that of late, and that's always good. So always somebody to talk to. And I think you left a comment on. Or did you leave the comment on Twitter? I can't remember. But yeah, if anybody's watching and not following me on Twitter, on Twitter too under the MAME Hayes name, and I'm on Twitch under the MAME Hayes name. Again, I'd like to do some more streams on Twitch, but I need to start building up a bit of a follower base there in order for that to work well. So I might do the odd stream on there and just export it to YouTube too. I know sometimes those do get missed when that happens, but there's different communities in different places, and so I tend to watch more people on Twitch, but stream on here at the moment. It's just how it's worked out. But anyway, yeah, thank you for everybody for joining in and coming along, and I will catch you another day.